Hi there, Janet Fritz here for Galaxy Girl Creations. Welcome to my channel. Welcome to Peartree Cutfiles' first birthday celebration hop. And this is super exciting. These guys have been in business for a year now, and we are all just so happy to be able to use their cut files. They have amazing cut files. There are a lot of fun images and titles and all kinds of good stuff. So this is not the first time I've used Peartree's cut files. They cut out great. If you saw my video with the ice cream cart, that was also a Peartree cut file. I just love their files and they're so much fun. So go check them out. They have a Facebook group and they will have all kinds of challenges and things going on all month long for you guys to participate in and to just be able to get a lot of inspiration from as well. So happy birthday, Peartree Cut Files. The cut file I chose to use today is this one called Dig Dig Dig. And I chose it because I have this photo of Noah, my grandson, playing with these two really old Tonka trucks. They're old. They're not, I guess, really old. They're probably about 20 years old because they were my son's Tonka trucks. And so basically what I am documenting today is that my son had gone up to our cabin, which is where these Tonka trucks were at. And he and my husband had done a bunch of work up there. And when they came home, they brought these trucks home and they took them over for Noah to play with. And he had such a great time playing with them and he really likes them. So my son passed along his Tonka trucks to his nephew, and that's what I'm documenting. So a lot of times when I do one photo layouts, it is because it is mostly story-based, and there is something that I want to, a story that I want to tell. It's not just because there's an event or something like that going on. And I see value in both, and I do scrapbook both events and stories. So if you are new to my channel, you'll find lots of layouts that have single photos and lots of layouts that have multiple photos and lots that have cut files, including some that are pear trees. And so I backed the cut file off camera. It was a really simple to back, and basically that is because the nature of this cut file didn't require a lot of different colors or anything like a floral might. So basically yellow, black, and silver. And I really love how it came out, and I cut it on my Silhouette at home, no problems. It came out clean, and all of the little tiny pieces were nice and clean. So I was really happy with that. And at first I couldn't figure out if I wanted the tractor on the bottom of the layout and the title at the top or what. So I went to matting my photos, and this is something that I do frequently when I have a lot of stuff in my scrap bin. Is I just pull out the colors that I want to use and I start layering them up, and it doesn't really matter if they fit perfectly behind the photo or not, as long as the color is represented on opposing sides. I find that it keeps balance. And you'll notice there I have black on all four sides because black's a very heavily weighted color. So it definitely needs to be on all four sides, but it doesn't have to be in the same layer, and it doesn't have to be in the same amount necessarily, depending on what's in your photo. And so I really like how it came out. Now I did add a little piece of vellum behind the cab of the tractor, and I also added some silver mirror cardstock from Tonic Studios to be the rims of the tires. And I like how that turned out as well. So I am popping the tractor up onto some foam. It is fun foam just from Walmart. And it is typically adhesive backed on one side, but these are leftover bits that I used to make a title. So there's no adhesive on either side. I'm able to just use my ATG gun on the part that has cardstock on it. And then I'll just use my liquid glue to adhere the foam down to the page. And I'm not adding any foam underneath the photo, and the reason behind that is because the photo has so many layers behind it that I actually had to add the foam behind the tractor, otherwise it wouldn't have enough support, because all of those layers kind of left a void behind the tractor. So now that it is all level, I can go ahead and adhere it down as soon as I get to that point. So I took my background paper off camera. I ran it through my sewing machine. I just ran a black stitch all around the outside to kind of frame the whole thing. And here I am just pulling the threads back through the back and taping them down with some washi tape just to hold those excess threads in place so it doesn't come unraveled in the album or anything like that. And I really like how that looks. And then I have this piece of paper that is in my scrap bin. It's it has a small aqua colored grid on it. And so I'm just writing my journaling down, and I'm going to cut those into journaling strips and put them below the area where it says dig, dig, dig. And it basically just says what I've already told you, that these tractors were my son's. They went to the cabin, they brought them home and gave them to Noah, and how much he enjoyed them. So I'm just going to cut these into strips. And doing this on grid paper was really easy because I could follow those lines and cut the strips pretty much the same size. I did have to alter a couple of them just because I hadn't thought about how wide I wanted them when I first started cutting. But it was really easy to keep a straight line. And usually when I do this, I don't think I've ever used a grid paper for this technique before. So I usually try to cut it with my paper trimmer, but in this case I didn't have to do that because, like I said, the grid lines made it really easy to cut. And when I do this, I don't really measure the length of the paper. I just start putting it down and I cut it wherever it needs to be and balance it out however, as you go down the page. So the one thing I didn't want is that last line. I didn't want the gap between the first and second pieces on the last line to line up with the gap between the first and second pieces on the second line. So that was the only thing I kind of made sure of because I didn't want to have just a big gap between two lines that lined up perfectly. So I'm pretty happy with the way that came out. And then I am going to pop up the dig, dig, dig onto foam tape. Same kind of foam tape. Basically, I buy the sheets of Fun Foam at Walmart, and then I cut it into strips. So I have a bunch of strips sitting next to me, and I can grab at any point, just specifically like for doing these small areas, like titles and the arm of the excavator, or the excavator arm up at the top there. So I guess, I don't know if it's an excavator. It's not really an excavator. It's a backhoe or something like that. But anyway, but the arm that has the narrow areas. So that works out really well. And then I thought I would add some little banner flags somewhere on here. And I didn't really know where when I was creating this. I just started creating it using the same colors that are in the layers behind the photo. And so you're going to see me kind of mess around with where I want to put those. Originally, I thought I would put them up here in the corner of the photo, but I didn't really like that. They kind of got lost. There was already a lot going on between the photo and the tractor being there. It just felt too squished together. And so while I'm thinking about where I want it, I decided to go ahead and ink everything up in some Black Soot Distress ink. And then I'm going to go ahead and layer it. And I find that once I get them where I want them in my hand, I just put a little bit of glue in between the layers, because once I let go of them, if I try to use my tape runner, I always mess up the placement. And so this allows me to kind of just put that liquid glue in there. If I need to slide it around just a tiny bit, it does let me do that because the liquid glue doesn't dry so fast that I can't slide it around. But the ATG gun just doesn't allow for that. And then if I have to pull them apart, they end up getting ripped. And yeah, so it's not a pretty sight. So here I am just kind of trying to figure out where I want them. And then I decide, you know what, these are going to look really cute if I put them at the beginning of the title. So they are going to be moved. They're going to sit there for a minute while I think about it. And that's something else that I do. I kind of let it live there for just a little bit, and then I go, that's not where I want it. And so then I move it. And so then I'm going to create another set of those to go at the end of the title. So the title has these banner flags at both the beginning and the end of it, just to kind of make it a little bit more prominent and give it a little bit more pizzazz. And I really like the way that looks. So there are a whole bunch of people that are playing along with this hop, celebrating Peartree Cutfiles. So in my description box down below, you will find the links to everybody. You will also find the link to the Facebook group so that you can go and check out all of the things that they are doing for their birthday month in celebration of. Um, and hopefully you will be able to participate in some of those. And if not, maybe you just get some inspiration. And I will also put the link to their store in my description box down below so that you can easily get to their store if you want to check out their cut files. So I'm going to go ahead and trim this down. I got to trim down the one that's at the beginning as well, because it was a little bit too long, given I didn't have as long of papers at the end. And I basically just measured my second one by the width of the papers in the first layer, so it looked like it was continuing on. I just kind of held those papers back up to the one that I had already created and cut it at the same width. And all of the little tails are just done freehand. You can use like a hex punch or a square punch to get those corners, or to get that little flag, or you can fold them in half and cut from the outer corner up towards the inside. You can measure down the middle and cut, which is what I do. I don't actually measure, I just kind of cut where it looks like it's the middle of the line, or the piece of paper, and then I cut it from the outer corner up to the center. And that's what kind of gives me that fishtail. There's a lot of different ways to do that. And then I pulled out this paper from Kaiser Craft. It's like, I don't know if it's from their workshop or if it's from Factory 42, but those are the two collections that it could have been from. But it was in my scrap bin, even though it's not a scrap, it's a 6x6 or 6.5 by 6.5 inch paper, because that's the size Kaiser Craft uses. And I just freehanded a few rocks. And then I am inking them up with that same Black Soot Distress ink, and I am going to layer them up. So I will have some that are a little bit more dimensional, because I have adhesive in 2 different thicknesses. And so some of them will be flat against the page. Then there will be a layer, or one that is a little bit more dimensional, and one that is, again, more dimensional than the second layer. So this first foam that I'm putting down is very thin. It's about half the width of the fun foam. And so I'm just layering that up to give some dimension. And then on the top piece, I kind of have to use a little bit of fun foam and a piece of that thinner stuff so that it can layer up on top of the boulder that is already dimensional. So hopefully that made sense. And then I'm going to do the same thing at the bottom, just to kind of bring a little bit more continuity down to this edge. I don't want that bucket to have the only brown thing on this page. So I'm going to bring a little pile down to this bottom right hand corner, just to kind of make it look like that's maybe where the tractor's picking them up from or something like that. And again, I just freehand them, and I ink them up just to give more dimension and make it so that they stand out and don't look like it's just one big brown blob. I tried to cut from the different areas in the paper so that there were darker pieces and lighter pieces, but there's only so much dark and light. So with having 4 or 5 different rocks in there, some of them are going to be the same color saturation to some extent. So I wanted it to be very obvious to your eye that these were multiple rocks, and that's why the ink really helps that. It just adds to that dimensional look. So I'm pretty happy with how it's coming out. I'm going to add one more little piece of rock to that one down at the bottom, because I didn't really like the little gap that it was leaving. It looked kind of like a ledge, and so I'm just adding one more little piece, and then I'll be finished with that area. Then I'm going to pull out my gold Heidi Mist color shine, and I'm going to sprinkle a little bit over those rocks, kind of to give the illusion of the dirt and the dust when you pick up rocks and bang them together. But in this case, it's a little bit sparkly. And that's pretty much going to do it. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to check out everyone else playing along. Go over and give a little bit of love to Marie Hirst and Peartree Cutfiles. She is the owner of Peartree, and she's amazing, and her Cutfiles are awesome. So don't forget to check that out. Check out the challenges that are going along. Everything is down in my description box for your convenience, and I will see you guys again very soon. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.